Bright stars Will Smith and Joel Edgerton as a human and orc respectively in a world that is basically our own, but with mythical creatures that have always existed. This movie is basically End of Watch meets World of Warcraft, directed by David Ayers, who directed End of Watch, as well as one of the worst superhero films to date, Suicide Squad. Ugh. And you get to see all the awful editing and pacing choices from Suicide Squad here in Bright. Isn't that great? Bright contains possibly Will Smith's worst performance of his career as Ward. Really felt like he was just doing this for a paycheck. The writers were trying to give him some of those 90s Smith one-liners, and they kept throwing those in there, and it just made it all the more painful to watch.
We might be in a prophecy. We're not in a prophecy. We're in a stolen Toyota Corolla.
Oh my God! Hey, now this is worse than I thought.
And for 80% of the movie, there's no chemistry between Smith and Edgerton. Smith's character, Ward, hates being partners with Jacoby for most of the movie, and not in a love-hate relationship type of way, just in an uncomfortable kind of way, in which you just feel bad for Jacoby. I swear, there's like a 10-minute car ride scene that just lasts forever, just keeps going and going. And it just is Ward and Jacoby bantering back and forth. It doesn't explain much about these characters. It isn't funny or interesting or informative. It doesn't do anything except for just be uncomfortable and long.
Oh my.
Honestly, Jacoby is really the only reason why I continued watching this movie, because I was ready to give up after the first 20 minutes. Joel Edgerton is really the only good performance in the movie. He is also the only one who has a decently fleshed out background and his character motivations make sense. Smith's character, Ward, by contrast, is really kind of just a jackass. His only character motivation is to provide for his family, which is fine and makes it commendable, but outside of the first 20 minutes of the movie, we never see or hear from his family again. It's like they dropped off the face of the planet, or the writers and directors forgot they existed. And with it, you don't really have anything to connect with why Ward is doing what he's doing. There are no stakes. It's just Smith playing Will Smith, and it disconnects you from the universe they're trying to get us interested in. There's nothing anchoring the audience here besides just watching shootout after shootout after shootout for the sake of putting action to screen. The real problem with Bright, I guess, is that the concept and the world is far more interesting than the story that they try to tell here. This film is basically just an escort mission in which these two guys escort a magic wand and a Bright from one drab location to the next, facing off against Mexican gangs, dark elves, dirty cops, and orc gangs. There's meant to be a real sense of urgency, but all you really feel is boredom. This is what happens when there's no charisma in a movie. There's also a lot of racial parallels that they try to make that are so blatant and forced that you can't even call them parallels. They are just so on the nose with lines like,
Good afternoon, officer. Fairy lives don't matter today.
"Don't look at me, they still blame me for the Alamo." These are actual lines in the movie. It's really uncomfortable to watch. It's like watching a kid movie that you loved in the 90s, but you're watching it with adult eyes. The only reason that I can come up with for the positive audience scores for Bright is that as a Netflix movie, people have no real expectations for the film. The bar sets so low for a TV movie that it's hard not to hit it. But it really isn't a TV movie. No TV movie in history cost $90 million to make. Yes, that is a movie that cost $90 million. $90 million. $90 million.
$1 million.
That is $30 million more than Deadpool cost to make. And honestly, I have no idea where Bright blew their budget, because this really does feel like a TV movie. There's nothing that screams $90 million about this film. So the positives are Joel Edgerton's performance. The world is very interesting. The makeup design's really good, specifically for the orcs. I love that. Everything else is meh to terrible. Some really strange tonal shifts and pacing problems wrapped up in some strange camera shots and editing choices. Bad direction, there's no chemistry between the actors, poor performances, no real stakes or weight behind what is happening. Netflix tried to make a box office type movie, and they succeeded, but not in the way you really want, not in a way that anybody I think wants. Bright is going to get 4 bright ideas out of 10.